All right, folks, we'll go ahead and get started. This is Bereave's Manager Training Program. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being customers. Again, this is a customer-only manager event that we run a handful of throughout the year. So just by being here, just want to say thanks for the way you've chosen to show up for your teammates. The goal of these programs is really to provide access to training and learning on a variety of topics that are aligned with our work, to align our work really with the managers of bereaved customers. And we've been excited. We remain excited. We've booked 4 sessions this spring. This is our third of 4. We will do 3 in the fall as well. So 7 sessions in 2025. And we get to bring people like Des to you, which as you'll see is a pretty incredible opportunity. A quick reminder, if you are a manager of a new bereaved customer, if you're a manager at a new bereaved customer, you have not logged into the platform, please see your HR team to ensure that you have access. Okay, this session is called Meeting the Moment, How to Turn Crisis and Change into Opportunity. And you are here for Des Pascual. She allowed me to call her Des. I think she does that for most people, so I don't feel overly special about it. You can probably call her Des. She'll let you know. Des is the co-founder of Simply Human. And I'll put the website address and her LinkedIn here as well as we go. But Simply Human provides fractional HR support, HR project expertise, and strategic HR and leadership consulting. But the main reason that Bereave has partnered with them, which we announced a few weeks ago, is that their workplace well-being and crisis support offering exists and is incredibly powerful in some moments of crisis. We have called Des and her partner Jill in on a couple of instances where there's been a pretty traumatic loss in the workplace, and we've received a call on asking for help. And our first move right now is to call Simply Human and to get them involved. A little bit about Des. She's a 3-time chief people officer at mental health and well-being companies, including names you might recognize like Headspace, Ginger, Carrot, which is now Pivot. She holds a master's degree in clinical psychology. Her expertise lies in reducing organizational friction and really catalyzing potential by spotting, and I love how she uses the word untangling relational and operational knots. And really identifying the uniqueness that can be unlocked, can be used to unlock the full potential of people and organizations. I've learned a ton from Des in just a short time. We've known each other for probably 6 months or so, Des, I think. But we're so pleased that you're here today. Please leverage the chat. See Donna and Jill and Daphne and Jim and Elaine are here. Great. Thank you for being here. Please leverage the chat with questions, and we'll be sure to get those up on the screen and answer those. Also, I've got at least 100 Bereave bucks to give away today. We still don't know what Bereave bucks are, but the more you participate, the more Bereave bucks you get. They don't actually exist, but just kind of something fun to use. Des, we're privileged to have you here and to learn from you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Des Pascual.
Thank you so much, Justin. And for the record, if you are here with us today to talk about this topic, then you can call me Des. We are friends. We are allies. It's a pleasure to be here together with you today and to have the opportunity to spend this time with you. I want to take a moment to acknowledge Justin and the Bereave team who made this possible. And I also want to acknowledge all of you for choosing to step into this conversation today. And my hope is that our time together will offer some inspiration, foster connections, the kind of connections that have us all stand just a little stronger in the face of change and diversity. Now let me see if I can navigate these slides here. As Justin said, my name is Des. I am the co-founder of Simply Human. And we help managers, leaders, and employees navigate uncertainty, crisis, and change by placing humans at the center of strategy. And today I'll share a little more about how we do that. So before we go into frameworks and strategies, I would like to start with a story that for me cemented the profound power of trust, shared values, and connection, and navigating moments of change and crisis and uncertainty. So, confidentially, between us, since we're friends and you're calling me Des, I lead a double life. I've been in and out of prison, where I'm also known as Little Miss D. Now, before you log off in abject horror, let me explain. Years ago, Justin mentioned that I also have a degree in clinical psychology, and years ago I led emotional literacy classes inside prisons. One particular group included members of rival gangs from the Norteños, from the Crips, and from the Aryan Brotherhood, people who, outside of their group sessions that we had together, existed in a world of rigid hierarchies, boundaries, and unspoken violent rules. Our full curriculum took about a year to complete. And about 6 months into this particular group's program, one of my group members, a member of the Crips from South Central LA, he and I had to walk across the prison yard to get some materials for a class. As we approached a basketball court that we had to cross to get to another building, we saw that members of the Aryan Brotherhood, AB for short, were playing on the court. And this group member I was walking with stopped me dead in my tracks. As you may know, prison yards are sharply segregated based on gang affiliation. And this group member told me that he could not walk across that court without inciting a riot. So he and I stood at the edge of the court, the weight of those unspoken rules of prison culture weighing down on us. Then something unexpected happened. One of the players, an AB, Aryan Brotherhood shot caller, who was also a member of our class, paused the game. He looked at us, nodded, and said, "It's okay." The prison yard fell silent, frozen, in an unusual moment of absolute stillness. You could have heard a pin drop. We stood at the edge of the court, afraid, uncertain. The cocking of the guards' rifles was the only sound in the yard. Hundreds of pairs of eyes on us. The man I was walking with whispered to me, "We might die, little Miss D." After a brief pause and intense eye contact with the AB shot caller, I responded, "Or this moment could change everything." In that moment, we had a choice: to lean into the connection and the shared agreements and values we had built between these rivaling gang members over the previous 6 months of listening and seeing one another beyond labels, or back off and recoil to old dysfunctional rules and walk away. We were scared, for sure, but anchored in the trust and the connection we had built over the previous 6 months, we chose courage and trust and walked across the court unharmed. In that moment, something shifted, not just for us, but for the entire prison. That moment cracked open a door to new possibilities, reflecting that trust and connection and alignment around shared agreements can defy even the most deeply ingrained dysfunction and transform even the most adverse of moments. So, why start with this story? Because effective crisis and change management don't start at the moment of impact when the crisis hits. Our ability to navigate the unknown, like a pandemic or sudden loss, is built long before the storm arrives. It's built every day in how we show up, in the shared values that inform our interactions, in the culture that we build along the way, and how we manage and lead when things are steady. And the second consideration I want to leave you with today is that every challenge, every crisis is also an opportunity to emerge stronger. Those ripples of change that we set in motion that day at San Quentin prison expanded far beyond the immediate group that experienced the moment of uncertainty and fear. And in organizations, just like in that prison yard, we are going to face unexpected headwinds, layoffs, mergers, moments of profound dissonance, and we won't be able to control every disruption. But what we can control is how prepared we are to face uncertainty when it hits. It's about trust and psychological safety. It's about the cultures of belonging and connection we build in the good times. And it's about the shared values that shape our daily interactions, all of which become stabilizing anchors in times of change, uncertainty, and loss. So I'd like to throw out a little audience prompt, Justin, if that's okay. I'm curious to know if you all think back to a moment of utter workplace uncertainty. For example, when you learned about a layoff or a merger, what did you need most in that moment? Share with us in the chat. We'll give you a minute.
I just threw it in there as well.
Beautiful.
And just to get the juices, why people might be typing. There's a handful that come to mind for me, but I think the thing that I always needed the most, as quickly as possible, is like clarity on next steps.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need like the rah, we'll get through this, we'll make it. I didn't need, thinking about a year from now. I just needed to know what was going to happen next and when that thing was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
That was always something that made me feel a little bit more grounded in the situation, reducing that kind of immediate uncertainty that comes up right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Jill added to the chat here, needed to feel safe and wanted transparency from leadership. Elaine, +1 to Jill, safety comes to mind. Yeah. Transparency, safety. Thank you for sharing those things. So let's move into some of the traits in effective crisis leadership. When a crisis hits, whether it's global, company internal, or personal, people don't just look to leadership and management, they cling to it. And if that leadership is rigid, reactive, or robotic, you've just added gas to the fire. So what kind of people leadership do we need in times of crisis and uncertainty? It's easy to lead when you have the wind at your back, but it gets really difficult when you're facing uncertainty and unexpected pressure, including grief and loss. Change leadership isn't for everyone, though I'm here to say to you, if you want to excel at it, you can do it, regardless of where you sit in the organization. In today's business environment, change is relentless, and along with it, moments of uncertainty. When change initiatives fail, and they do so more often than not, according to McKinsey, who says that about 70% of change initiatives fail, they rarely fail. Now get this, on the technical hard skills, they fail on the people side. Successful change and crisis management rises and falls with how well you bring your people along on the journey. And so today I want to focus on 4 traits that we have seen consistently in really great change and crisis leaders. And they are curiosity, devotion, transparency, and courage. Let's unpack what these really mean, not as corporate buzzwords, but as really critical high impact behaviors. First up, curiosity. In crisis, the knee-jerk reaction is to narrow focus, shut down questions, grasp for certainty. Curious leaders do the opposite. They start asking questions. What assumptions are we making? What voices haven't we heard yet? What are we missing? Curious leaders stay in learning mode, especially when the pressure mounts. And that keeps them adaptive, not defensive, adaptive, flexible, not fragile, but able to bend. They don't pretend to have all the answers. They pull in the experts on their teams that help them discover better answers. It's an incredibly powerful management tool to engage your team in discovery and iteration when things feel uncertain. There's nothing more demoralizing and terrifying, and frankly, and I'll say this to you as a therapist, trauma-inducing in moments of change than to feel like you have zero insight, zero agency. And we saw that in the chat earlier. To do transparency is a big one. The antidote to that is brainstorming and collaboration, which enable teams and organizations to emerge stronger, braver, to innovate, even amidst turmoil, and more connected. The next one is devotion. Devotion not to the strategy, not to saving face, but to the mission and the people. A myopic, rigid focus on strategy is useless in moments of crisis when everything around us is shifting and thrown into question. Moving ground requires the opposite. Curiosity, which we just talked about, clarity, and focus. Devoted leaders show up. They are highly visible when the going gets rough. In the most difficult moments, they roll up their sleeves and sit alongside their people. They check in. They don't just check boxes. They fiercely protect and model vulnerability that strengthens psychological safety. They communicate transparently, and they communicate with integrity. We'll get to that deeper into that in a moment. They move with agility and laser focus. What are we saying yes to, and where do we need to say no or not right now to protect sustainability for our people and for our team? Devoted leaders play the long game, even while navigating short-term turmoil. Oh my goodness, try to say that 3 times fast. Even while navigating short-term turmoil. The long game, it's about the long game. Devotion is what keeps teams from falling apart when everything else seems like it does. My amazing co-founder, Jill, who is also on this webinar, is known for saying, you have to love people to lead them well. Otherwise, you will make decisions for the wrong reasons. So to summarize, times of turmoil and crisis require high devotion, high fidelity leaders. Now, the third trait, transparency, which has come up in the chat and via conversation with Justin. In crisis, silence is rarely golden. It's dangerous. Transparent leaders communicate early and they communicate often, even if the update is, we don't know yet, but here's what we're doing to find out. They don't sugarcoat. They don't spin narratives. They don't hide behind jargon or PR speak. They model integrity through transparency and consistency. It's simply human. We say what you do and do what you say. Because guess what? In the absence of real information, people will get lost in uncertainty and write their own stories. And those stories are usually way worse than the truth and immediately and profoundly impact morale, engagement, productivity, and your people's emotional well-being and mental health. Transparency, contrary to what some people believe, doesn't exacerbate anxiety. It doesn't erode trust, it builds it. And our last but not least, courage. Crisis demands decisions that won't always make every constituent happy. It entails taking the heat, standing up, and sometimes standing alone in the face of risk and having to weigh options, as we did that day at the edge of the basketball court in the prison yard. Chances are that if you've led a team or HR at any time in the past 5 years, you already possess courage in abundance. Courageous leaders are highly self and other aware, and then make thoughtful decisions grounded in equal parts competence, compassion, and available data, decisions that are in the best interest of the collective good. They have the humility to listen and learn out loud. They're not afraid to reach out for help when they need it. The smartest people know what they don't know. Courageous leaders hold boundaries with enough elasticity to allow their teams to breathe and adapt. They don't hesitate to make the tough calls ethically and always in alignment with shared values. They are highly accountable, and they own their mistakes and share the lessons that they've learned. They model what it looks like to stay human under pressure. Not perfect, not invincible, just human. That sort of manager and leadership courage is the difference between an organization who merely survives during a crisis and one that evolves through it and comes out stronger. So when leaders combine curiosity, devotion, transparency, and courage, they build what we at Simply Human call resilient influence. That's the kind of leadership that people follow into battle. Resilient influence is the sustained ability to lead with integrity, inspire, and mobilize others, even in the face of uncertainty or adversity, without compromising collective values or trust. It's what keeps teams aligned when things feel really hard and difficult. It's leading in a way that makes people stronger because of how managers and leaders model showing up in the storm. So I'll give you a quick visual of the resilient influence model that mirrors what we talked about on the previous slide. I won't spend a lot of time on this. I'll just go into some of the risks if those traits are absent. Just notice one thing, that at the center you see the core anchor, integrity. I gave that a diamond shape because pressure creates diamonds, right? We define integrity as the consistent alignment of purpose, values, and action in all that we do, whether someone's watching or not. And integrity matters because without it, influence can become manipulation. And teams in a state of heightened anxiety spot manipulation faster than we can blink an eye. This is why integrity is the bedrock of resilient influence. And then you see these other traits radiating out from the center of integrity. At the top, you see curiosity. And here I want to only share the risks if curiosity is absent, as we have seen then on teams that have struggled with it. The risk if it's absent, curiosity that is tunnel vision, suboptimal decisions, paralysis, blind spots. And then we have courage. The risks if that is absent is confusion, panic, eroded trust. At the bottom, you see devotion, connection. The risk if that is absent is disengagement, languishing, burnout. And then on Then we have the last one on the right is transparency. The risk, if that is absent, is rampant rumors, fears, eroded psychological safety. So just to summarize, when integrity holds the center and these 4 traits are in balance, leaders earn resilient influence. And I say earn very intentionally. Resilient influence is a leadership presence that allows a leadership presence that people trust. Teams follow it and organizations grow from it, even in the messiest of moments. And I'll share some signs with you that will tell you that you're operating from resilient influence. People seek your input in the hard moments. People openly share concerns and ideas with you. There's a greater sense of clarity on your team. Your team knows where you stand and they stand with you. People don't shy away from having courageous conversations and asking the hard questions. So I'd love to stop here to give us a moment to reflect. Which of these 4 traits do you naturally lead with in uncertainty, change, or crisis? Which is the ones or are the ones that challenge you the most, and why? And you can feel free to put that in the chat also if you're comfortable. As for me, I'll be completely transparent. I naturally lead with devotion and courage. Where I've struggled is curiosity, because I am a very action-oriented, very solution-focused person. So when I recognized that, very purposely dove into the principles of design thinking to slow myself down and cultivate that curiosity. So what about you, Justin?
Yeah, thanks for sharing and asking. I think I start with curiosity, and I think the last thing, and then there's probably courage, devotion, or I don't know, to flip to 2 or 3. Transparency is as much as transparent as I want to be. I always struggle with things like how much information is too much. Like, where is the line of overwhelm? Right? We want to be clear. We want to give people an idea of what a path out could look like, what it means for them. But there's this moment of, the balance. Like, is too much information actually less productive and less helpful? And so that kind of is in that transparent section for me.
Yeah. And I think that you're not alone in that. A lot of people struggle with that. And really, it is a culture question. What kind of culture do you sit in, right? And if we want people to follow us into battle, into a hard moment, if we empower them with as much transparency as we can share with them, the more they will show up in that moment and collectively to help the organization pull through. So let's see if anybody else. Transparency, curiosity, Justin shares here. I'm assuming, Justin, those are the ones you struggle with? Not sure.
I would say that probably, I think the way that you asked that, I'm reading that as transparency is the starting point, like the non-struggle, and curiosity is the struggle, maybe.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I could be wrong, though. Oh, never mind. There you go. That's what he leads with. Thanks, Justin.
Way to go, Justin. Thank you for letting us know. And Elaine says, I was about to say curiosity because I, too, go straight to solutions as well. Oh, I feel you, Elaine. I also struggle with courage because others are usually operating from fear. And so the courage feels even more scary. Yes, I hear you there. And believe me, that moment when I stood in that prison yard, I was also very scared. Yes, other Justin. All right. This is a great slide that you can keep reflecting on, and as you build your change management and crisis leadership muscle. All right. Let's now move to the traits of highly resilient cultures. So when disruption hits, it's neither perks nor platitudes that carry teams through. It's culture. The most resilient organizations we've seen share three fundamental traits that act like internal stabilizers in times of uncertainty. The first one is psychological safety and trust. Trust isn't fluffy, it's oxygen. When people feel safe to speak up, safe to take risks, and admit that they don't have all the answers, and that includes managers and leaders, especially during times of disruption, they move faster and smarter. You've heard Amy Edmondson talk about this concept a whole lot. Without it, everything starts to feel like a high stakes game of poker, and nobody benefits from that, least of all the bottom line. Leaders set the tone, managers set the tone by modeling vulnerability and rewarding respectful candor, not just problem solving. The second trait, connection and belonging. In times of chaos and unrest and uncertainty, relationships are the infrastructure. When people feel seen, supported, and part of something larger than themselves, they stay engaged, even when the work is hard and when the path is unclear. To gauge the level of psych safety and belonging that you have built on your team, a powerful, no-fluff question you can ask yourself is this. And this is something I personally wrestled with, full disclosure. So the question is, if I left tomorrow, would my team still feel safe, seen, and supported by each other? Or was I the glue holding it all together? This question gets at the heart of collective belonging. It's not about whether you are connected to everyone. It's whether the team feels connected to each other. True belonging means they don't just look up for safety, they look across. If the answer to that question makes you uncomfortable, that's your starting line. Jill knows about a moment that we encountered this. And what it was is we created a functional plan for our HR team at Headspace at the beginning of a year. And part of our process was to also create DAISYs, to create accountability to some of the projects that we had selected to be our pivotal projects. And the approver on every single one of those DAISYs across the team was me. And Jill called that out and said, hey, listen, it can't be that our chief people officer is the approver for everything. We need to turn towards each other and empower each other to make the important decisions. When you have built a culture of inner togetherness, people do look to one another. And these very moments of change and crisis, even if it's the sudden loss of a leader, and we've encountered that recently, become opportunities for transformation. So building a culture of connection isn't about everybody connecting to the leader. It isn't about forced fun. It isn't about swag or matching hoodies. It's about cultivating trust and care for one another across the team, and about grounding in our shared humanity and in our shared purpose and our mission. Yeah, I think let's move to mission and values. Crisis creates fog. A compelling mission and shared values cut through it. A clear why creates alignment. And when the why is strong in times of uncertainty, the what now becomes a lot easier to figure out. When values guide our decisions, teams can move with greater clarity, even in chaos. At Headspace, we went through great effort to operationalize our values so that in moments of uncertainty or disagreement, employees wouldn't default to their manager or leader to solve a problem, but rather asked, what would our shared values have us do? When people are aligned around a clear purpose and those shared values, they can make decisions without waiting for permission. Values, we say this over and over, Jill and I, values aren't just posters in a hallway or declarations on a website. They're the guardrails that keep your culture from veering off a cliff when the road gets bumpy. Operationalize them where possible, bake them into your policies and processes, and weave them throughout the fabric of your culture, to your performance reviews, one-on-one conversations, etc. The TLDR, psychological safety, gives people voice. Connection gives them strength. Shared mission and values give them direction. If we get those right, we're not just weathering the storm, we're building something that lasts way beyond it. And last but not least, I want to take a moment to talk about the stabilizing magic of rituals. Leaders, when they contact Simply Human for support around change management, one of the primary questions that they ask us is, how do we stabilize the team? How do we anchor our people? And the answer is rituals. In times of uncertainty, organizational rituals act as stabilizing anchors, whether it's meaningful check-ins, moments of recognition, or shared pauses for reflection. At Headspace, we'd start each meeting with a 2-minute meditation. We were a mindfulness meditation app, so that was innate to our culture. But these simple, consistent practices remind people that something still holds steady. You may have crises, you may encounter detours, but you will always have those anchors in uncertainty. Rituals create rhythm, connection, and just enough predictability to help teams move forward together. You should build and operationalize them in calm times and then rely on them in times of uncertainty and crisis. Some examples of grounding rituals, and I'll ask you all for some examples in a moment too, are, customizing those weekly check-ins. Instead of jumping right into work mode, ask, how are you really, really? The second really being a prompt to shut down Slack, put away the phone, because you're really interested in how your team is doing. Or another idea is monthly reflection rounds, structured space for sharing one thing learned, one thing appreciated, brief group meditations, as I said earlier, before all hands meetings, which are shared moments to ground and breathe. Time for shout outs linked to team values. That was one of our favorite ones. Make them frequent and visible. Celebrating milestone moments like anniversaries and goodbyes or welcomes with stories, not just announcements. Or story time at all hands, like a 5-minute spotlight, a story that reflects a value or a mission moment. The key principle being that rituals don't need to be fancy. They just need to be consistent and authentic. When the ground shakes, these small acts remind people who they are here with, and why they are here. So in the chat, if you haven't already, I would love for you to share some rituals that you use to create connection and shared rhythm with your teams. Justin, maybe you have a couple of examples for us too at Bereave.
With 3 of us at Bereave, I don't know that we have any rituals that we've established. Certainly have in the past at other companies too. And I think shout outs was a big one. Always making sure that we were at Lessonly for specifically talking about one of our values was that we highlight what's working. And so on a regular basis, whether it's an all hands or a team meeting, we would make sure to stop at some point and talk about the things that were working, because it's really easy to get bogged down in all the things that aren't working when you're trying to build a business quickly. And that was an opportunity for us to not only feel grateful for those moments, but also to look around and realize that a lot was going in our favor. And I think we've done a little bit of that here at Bereave, but because it's easy to get off track pretty quickly, and all the things that you wish would happen that aren't.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that oxygen, as I said earlier. Somebody else at Elaine here says, "Whoo, trust is oxygen."
Yeah.
She liked
Yeah.
it. Jenna
And
said,
Elaine, I agree with you. We need better rituals here at Bereave.
Yeah. Jenna says, I always recommend asking, how are you feeling, instead of doing. It feels more specific, requires a more detailed response instead of just, good, how are you? Love that, Jenna.
Yeah.
Love that. Absolutely.
Jenna's sharp. Jenna's sharp.
Jenna's sharp. Jenna, you're going to need the next webinar. All right. So here, I won't, in the interest of time, I don't want to spend too much time on the next two slides as they're summaries of what we've covered so far. Just to summarize, when crisis or rapid change hits, don't worry about having all the answers. Instead, cultivate these conditions that help your teams navigate uncertainty together, and that help organizations stay grounded when the stakes are high. And here, just for your amusement, I loved, sort of, because I told you earlier, I dove into design thinking. So I love this little like journey path. I thought that was so great. And then I realized you can absolutely not read the font. So I made you another slide, much more useful, has the exact same content, but in font that you can actually read. All right. So let's talk about crisis and change, not just being obstacles, but being defining moments. How you lead when things are steady determines how your team will move when things aren't. Your commitment to cultivating connection, psychological safety, and shared rituals, all the stuff we talked about, will determine whether a moment of crisis becomes a breaking point or a potential breakthrough. And remember, those moments where everything is on the line, those are the moments that can also unleash enormous potential for growth. That day at the prison sparked a movement. The two men at the center of the incident went on to become peer facilitators and catalysts for change. The violent incidents in the yard dropped significantly, and the men in the group ditched the gang in exchange for community, one driven by purpose, not power and violence. Of the hundreds of participants released from custody after participating in our program, only one reoffended and returned to prison. That's in stark contrast to the national recidivism rate of 66+%. So my hope for you today is this: that you stay connected to each other, support one another, and draw strength from your shared commitment to building courageous, human-centered cultures. Leading through uncertainty, especially in systems that may not value what you do, can feel like pushing a boulder uphill. But when we stand together, even if we're not working at the same organization, we know that we're not pushing alone. And we're not just responding to crisis, we're tilling the ground so something stronger can take root. That is what I've got for you today.
Amazing.
Everyone. I just again want to thank you, Justin, and everybody that joined us today, for being part of the movement. And I want to invite you to connect and reach out for additional ideas, support, or brainstorm with your teams. Crisis and change is unpredictable, and we learn from each other. I'm eager to learn from all of you as well. And it's just been great to connect today. Thank you, Justin, and I look forward to connecting with as many of you as reach out to me.
Yeah.
Justin, should we open for any questions?
Yeah, please fire away. If anybody's got questions, please add them to the chat. Des, this was fantastic. You're such a professional, and that was very clear early on, but not just a professional, but a very spirited professional and passionate professional that goes along with it, and it makes everything that you do actually feel worthwhile. So thank you for that. I mentioned the word untangle earlier. Your LinkedIn profile says that you're an untangler of knots, and after looking through this and even taking talking about how you've taken feedback from people who report to you and made changes, you can see why you're untangler of knots. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Thank you for your partnership with Bereave. We're very grateful for that. And I feel like that partnership grows every day because of the way you and your partner Jill show up.
Thank you so much, Justin. And yes, to learning from the people around you. And we see this every single time we're called into a crisis. The first thing we do is we hold listening sessions. And sometimes we get in the trenches. We sit alongside people to experience some of the things that they're reckoning with, struggling with firsthand. And the answers almost always readily reveal themselves. We just have to be open to learning, because no two crises, no two organizations are the same. We all have our very specific thumbprint, footprint, and so it's important to stay open and curious. Thank you, everyone.
I do want to recognize Elaine in a question here. How do we bring leaders to the table who are resistant to soft words like courage? Transparency important, but not going to share any bad news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Elaine, that is such an interesting question. And I said something in the beginning of the webinar, and I think that a lot of people struggle with this, which is you can lead from wherever you're at. A friend of mine, Dan Heath, has written a book about this. And he calls it, the book is called Switch. Highly recommended if you're looking for a good read. Dan Heath, Switch. And what he says is, and I wholeheartedly subscribe to this, look for the bright spots in your organization. So what I'm saying to you, Elaine, is be the bright spot. Model courage, model curiosity. Your team will shine, and it will catch the attention of those who may be hesitant. And so be the bright spot in your organization and then work from there. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you for that. I'm trying to remove that question now, but there it is. Found it. All good. It's almost like I haven't been using StreamYard for over a year. Well, Des, thank you so much. Very grateful. Thank you to all of you, whether you are a manager with direct reports or you are an HR leader at your organization. Really appreciate you being here. We will get this workshop uploaded to our platform, to the Bereave platform. It'll be located under the HR and manager resources section, and might work with Des and Jill to see if we can get a couple clips out into the wild, and if that's all right with them, and share a little bit of this, a little bit of it out to the world. If you are looking at your calendars, go ahead and mark it now, May 14th. I didn't write down the time, but I think it's also 1 p.m. Eastern. Holly O'Hearn will be joining us to talk about navigating emotionally charged situations. So I think it's a great follow-up for this. And I can think of a lot of times that I have poorly navigated emotionally charged situations. I do it on a very frequent basis, as you may have witnessed even online. But really looking forward to Holly. Des, again, thank you. Until then, everybody, be well.